But I have watched The Hangover before, and how they look the day when they wake up after their crazy night is how I felt every single day of the Prednisone taper. Hello, and welcome back to another week of Calling in Sick. I'm your host, Alex Wildeson. I seem like I'm full of energy, but I'm surely not. This is coffee and hot chocolate that I'm drinking right now that is fueling me because I am fucking exhausted. What started with a prednisone taper, a forced flare-up, a colonoscopy, and some more testing has had a reverberation effect this week. I finished the prednisone taper last week, and I am feeling like utter asshole this week. But I'm pushing through because October is a notoriously busy month in my life. I have 4 family members' birthdays, and October in Austin is crazy busy. We have 2 weeks of ACL. We have, I almost said Oktoberfest. I think we probably do. We have Austin F1. I have some influencer events to go to, but outside of work, I also have a friend visiting from Montana and 2 friends visiting from London. So I am pushing through. I'm putting my big girl pants on, and I do fear I will have a crash out flare up at the end of this month, but we're not going to borrow tomorrow's trouble. Instead, we're just going to ruminate on why the fuck I even am doing any of this ish. So this week we're going to talk about why someone would ever force a flare-up. You'll get to hear about why I'm doing this, what it's been like, and what the next steps look like. And of course, I'll sprinkle in my very candid thoughts on the whole ordeal. So buckle up. But before we get into this thing, housekeeping and Alex's picks, I'm going to remember to do them at the top this week, just for you guys. So, housekeeping. This week, I am asking you guys to please rate this podcast on whatever platform you listen to it on. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, any other ones. It's truly helping, and I'm thanking you from the bottom of my heart. Second, we are hosting a Calling in Sick virtual vision board night the night before Halloween. We're going to be taking all those spooky, witchy vibes and use them for manifesting all of our visions for the rest of the year. We're kind of piling onto this thing called the October something, and I can't quite put my finger on what that thing is that it refers to, but TLDR, and I'll describe it to you because brain fog and words are coming to me today, apparently. It's a time to kind of reset, realign with our resolutions that we had at the start of the year, or make all the way new ones, and just spend a little bit of time reflecting on the year that we've had so far. So, if that sounds interesting to you, go check out our socials, RSVP to the event. It'll be a live on Instagram on both the podcast and my personal account. We're all going to hang out, make some fun mocktails, do our vision boards, and it should be a great time. The Calling in Sick podcast team did this together the other week. We had so much fun. So we put together a shoppable board. If you want to partake in the vision board night, it's all the materials that we use that we would suggest you get ahead of time. You obviously don't have to buy it off of our Amazon board. You can shop it wherever you want. But if you want the pre-curated list, we've got your back. So make sure you RSVP. Make sure you rate this show. And without further ado, Alex's picks. Since last week was Amazon Prime Day, I took a whole assessment of my home and picked out 2 big non-toxic hell yeses that I'm so happy I purchased, and I want to share them with you guys. My first pick of the week is the Cookware set by Our Place. It's non-toxic ceramic, non-stick. It's chic as heck. It looks absolutely beautiful, and when you buy a set, comes with these little organizers, and if you are a type A OCD girly, those little organizers are going to bring you so much joy in your heart because they have thought through the worst part of cookware, which is finding a way to organize it in your cupboard space. So I'll post some pictures on my Instagram this week for you guys to check it out, how we're organizing it and styling it, and maybe a recipe that St. Coop is using to cook in it for the very first time. Link in the description below, and I'm working on a discount code for you guys. Second pick of the week is Zevo, which is how we don't have any fruit flies or insects in our kitchen. We found this awesome contraption when we moved into our house in 2022. There's a blue light, which attracts the bugs, and then there's a sticky filament that the bugs then stick to, and I think it's like a calmer, kinder way for them to die. I hate that they die, I'm going to be honest. I wish that they just captured them and then I could release them into the wild. But alas, I'm just going to convince myself that we're overpopulated on flies and fruit flies and we just don't need more of them. So maybe I'm doing the world a good favor by having them unalived, but do know that it hurts and breaks my heart that I am killing these bugs. But with Zevo, it feels more ethical and more kind. And there's no toxins that harm me or the pups because it's all blue light. They're super expensive. You can get a kit with the actual device and then I think 6 to 10 fillers that you just replace every year for $30 on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description below and I'll work on a discount code for that too. And without further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this week's episode, forcing a flare-up. How do we feel about that? Not good, fam. Not good. So for those of you that have been following the podcast for a while, you already know the background lore that comes with why I'm forcing up a flare. But for the new listeners, here's the TLDR. I'm a part of a clinical study at UPenn. When I went there in May, they asked if I would come off of prednisone within 5 days to do some testing. I nodded my head like a good little patient, and when I got back to Austin and talked to my doctors, we all had a nice chuckle and said, that's just not happening. I'll actually die. So I slowly started tapering off of prednisone, which I started May 2024, and then started the taper May 2025. Got all the way down to 7.5 milligrams about a month and a half ago, and then had a massive CRPS flare-up and then vasculitis flare-up after a IVIG infusion. Wow, almost forgot the word of my medication. And that flare-up landed my ass in the emergency room where I was given IV Solumedrol and asked to go up to 60 milligrams of oral prednisone. I didn't do that because I was like, I've worked so hard to get down to 7.5. So I went up to 30 milligrams. Thank the dear God. Was there for 2 weeks, then saw my gastroenterologist, and she was like, I can pull strings and get you in for a colonoscopy to start all of these tests that UPenn wants you to do next week. Well, it was St. Cooper's birthday. He turned 30, and I didn't want to be a prednisone psychopath on his birthday. So I started the taper the next day, which meant I had to taper off of prednisone in 5 days. Shockingly, that part went way better than expected. I mean, physically, fucking terrible. So much pain, so many symptoms. Emotionally, way more stable than I anticipated. So that was bizarre and unexpected. Unfortunately, this week, the week following the taper ending, I am feeling the reverberation effect of that prednisone taper, and I feel unstable and fucking exhausted. So we're trying to get through that like we do. But this taper was not just for a colonoscopy and endoscopy. This taper was for a much greater reason. And it was because UPenn thinks that my childhood diagnosis of mixed connective tissue disease or lupus might, alas, not be that, and might be some form of IBD. So they want to do this last and final test to figure out if that is the case. And if that is the case, then there's some things that we would change. We're also taking this opportunity to do some vascular imaging because I've never actually done vascular imaging while not on prednisone. So I personally am very curious if we can find out where the vasculitis really is without any kind of blocks or, what's the word I'm looking for? Without any like curtains hiding it, if that makes sense. So all in all, I have a colonoscopy, check mark, we're done on that one. Then I have to do a small intestine GI scan because my GI doc thinks that my small intestine might be too narrow and small because I am a small human being. That the next study I have to do, the capsule endoscopy, we won't be able to do because the capsule might get stuck and then I'd have to have laparoscopic surgery to remove said capsule. So 3 gastric studies all in one, and then on the vascular imaging side, I have 4 different studies that we're going to do. And the biggest kicker is we have to get all of these done before my next round of chemotherapy, which is the beginning of November. Pray for me. Pray for St. Cooper. And after all of that is said and done, I am going to need to take a big old relaxation self-care week. And I recently found out via Instagram, so I don't know how true this really is, but I'm going to hope and pray it's true because your girl needs this. Apparently, Sweden is now offering on visitsweden.com or .org or whatever it is, a form that you can send to your primary care physician and they can fill it out and prescribe you a wellness week in Sweden. Now, most practitioners, I think, might laugh that off, but mine knows me pretty well, so I'm fingers crossing that she says yes to this, and then who knows, maybe Coops and I go to Sweden. I'm with the cousins of my people, and I get to experience what Swedish wellness and recovery is like. I think that would be pretty cool. And if that does happen, you bet I will vlog the shit out of that to bring you guys along with me. I'm saying it in jest, but like, honestly, I think a trip to Swedish wellness centers might genuinely cure me. At least of depression and anxiety. Oh, we joke and we laugh so we don't cry. Now, I know I'm sharing a lot of intimate medical information, but I'm doing it with a purpose because I think seeing me force myself in a flare-up is probably giving y'all a lot of questions. And honestly, the questions I've been getting from you guys has made me think, should I have even done this way? And off the bat, my answer is, when my doctors described what we were going to do, it made sense to me that we needed to get my baseline imaging done without prednisone masking what was going on. That clocked. But I had several friends DM me and text me saying, hey Alex, I know you're working with your doctors on this. This is probably safe and you guys have thought through it all, but I'm really worried and nervous for you. And that gave me pause. And so I wanted to ask you guys, do you think that it's okay to ever intentionally cause a flare-up by going off of prednisone or other medications for diagnostic purposes? Again, for me, it made sense. But for others, I don't think it does. And candidly, when I was prepping for this episode and I went online and Googled protocols for tapering prednisone for flare-ups for diagnostic purposes, the only things that were coming up were do not do this. Do not do this, do not do this, do not do this. It's dangerous. It can cause adrenal crises. It can cause large flare-ups that have irreversible damage. And honestly, reading all of it made me scared shitless. And I started thinking, and I started questioning, why the fuck did I even do this taper? Like, were my doctors thinking all of this through? But I found one article and it described the washout period that is necessary for diagnostic testing for chronic illnesses or other things in order to get a clear picture. That one article is giving me a lot of peace of mind and calming my prednisone taper anxiety. And I also think I have some like lucky stars, guardian angels, because I tapered off of prednisone about a month and some change ago. And then I went on a burst of prednisone to 30 milligrams for 2 weeks. And then I was able to taper off of that. So I think I basically was at a 7.5 milligram baseline, if you will. So getting to 0 wasn't as scary or dangerous as it could have been if I had not been tapering literally all summer long to this point, like from May to October, from 40 milligrams to 7.5 milligrams. Any other way, and I think that this could have ended in a very different way with my ass on the grass in the hospital. All this said and done, I think it's probably important that I hit on why I even said yes to this in the first place. Candidly, I want the peace of mind. I think the most obvious reason is that if my childhood diagnosis is incorrect and I do have something else, there are more targeted medications I can take that would perhaps make me feel better in the long run. But I'm going to be completely honest here. That's not the reason really why I did this. The reason why I did this is because I, for the last 25 years, have lived with this little voice in the back of my head going, is this the right diagnosis? I've been living with this question mark, and honestly, it's kind of haunting. It's a constant small anxiety that I live with, and I want to know, once and for all, what is this disease I've been living with since I was 6 years old, and why has it been so fucking hard to pinpoint? So I think, more than anything, I said yes so flippantly because I want that peace of mind, and I know that doesn't seem like a good enough reason to make yourself almost dangerously flare up. But for me, and for how I've been living my whole life, it was good enough for me that I didn't even bat an eye when my doctors proposed to me what we were going to be doing. I just said, hell yes, let's do this thing. And because I have been sick for 25 years, I have gone on and off prednisone, sometimes a wee bit too fast. So let's talk about what it was actually like, because genuinely, it went a lot smoother than I anticipated. And maybe that whole shock factor of what I thought was going to be happening and what actually happened, maybe that's why I'm thinking it was easier than it maybe what actually was, if that makes sense. I'm not going to sugarcoat it though. Tapering prednisone like I did was fucking terrible. Every single day I woke up with dread and anxiety, knowing I was going to be making myself feel a whole hell of a lot worse, not just during the taper, but after the taper. Because I wasn't just tapering to get off prednisone because I'm in a better spot. I'm tapering off prednisone so that we make myself flare up so we can get all of this testing done in a more accurate way for the first time ever. So let's start with the actual taper week, the 5 days of tapering. What was that like? So let's start with what it looked like physically. I think the best word to describe was fucking terribly painful. I had muscular skeletal pain, that usual kind of like autoimmune body flu-like feeling, but it was worse than that. my bones hurt. They literally were aching. It felt like I had a bone infection or something, to the point where like I could hardly close my crunchy joints at the end of the day. I was doing voice memos, voice to text. I didn't make a lot of content last week on social media because I could hardly hold my phone by the end of the day. I was in a world of pain, and I could hardly even do the little lifestyle things that I typically do when I don't feel as well because I was so damn tired. That was the worst side effect of all of it. I was so fatigued. My brain fog was so bad. Holding a sentence together felt near impossible. Going on a walk was basically off the table. So I just laid in bed for an entire week. Thankfully, I still used my PEMF mat. I hyperhydrated. I did all of those good things. But Lord, oof, it was a really, really rough time. And emotionally, it was also very taxing. Although not as taxing as I expected, I will say. End of the night, terrible anxiety. Like, relied on my emergency breakthrough Xanax for those nights. But at least during the daytime, I felt relatively normal as long as I was well fed. And yes, Cooper and I did set timers so that we would feed the beast. And I was well hydrated. And if I could do those two things, I was going to be okay. So in summary, I would say it felt like a hangover after a 5-day Vegas bender, which I've never done. But I have watched that one movie. What's it called? What's that movie called? The Hangover. Okay. But I have watched The Hangover before, and how they look the day when they wake up after their crazy night is how I felt every single day of the prednisone taper. Now, I just said that if I was well fed and well hydrated, things were okay, and that was all well and fine until the day of my colonoscopy prep, when I could not eat solid food, and I was shitting my brains out, so staying hydrated was pretty difficult. Which meant the day before my colonoscopy, the day of my colonoscopy, and the day following my colonoscopy were Dante's 7th layer of hell. Now, this was not my first colonoscopy and endoscopy. I did my first one back in like 2019, I think, and my mom was visiting Cooper and I. We had a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, less than 1,000 square foot condo, which meant you could hear what was happening in the bathroom anywhere in our home. We were all laying in my bed watching SNL. I was drinking that terrible, terrible colonoscopy prep beverage, going, it's weird. Nothing started yet. It's been a couple hours. And I trusted a toot, and I shouldn't have. And I shit the bed with my mom and Cooper in it, and it was terrible. And then the rest of the night, they could hear all of the disaster that was happening in the bathroom. Not fun. So this time around, I told Cooper, our bathroom off limits. You have to use the guest bathroom. The other pro tips. 1, I swapped us from non-toxic toilet paper to toxic toilet paper. I have been subjecting sweet St. Cooper and all of our house guests to single-ply bamboo toilet paper, because I have this rule of thumb that I don't want anything toxic in or on my body. Well, I broke that rule last week for this prep, and I am going to admit something. I'm not going back to toxic toilet paper. I don't care. The bleached toilet paper, that is just fine enough for my nether regions, because that stuff is luxury. And I got like that triple ply, ultra soft, delicious, that's a gross word to use for this, lovely toilet paper, and it really did make all of the difference. I didn't even have to use my witch hazel wipes that I got for the ouchiness that usually comes with a colonoscopy prep. That triple ply toilet paper just was gentle, just gentle enough. I wish that I would have hydrated much more the day before the colonoscopy prep and the day of the colonoscopy prep. Instead, I decided to start my new book. I'm reading Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown, his newest novel, which I love because it's about historical fiction and mystery, and it's just like you get lost immediately. You're hooked in chapter 1. Anyway, tangent. I was starting my new book, and I was laying outside in my bathing suit, getting more dehydrated by the sunshine. And so by the time I started the colonoscopy prep, I was definitely already dehydrated. My lips were so chapped, and I didn't have a Tilt restock on my favorite lip hydrating stick. So I just was, for lack of a better phrase, fucked. And then I started the colonoscopy prep drink, which I had actually St. Cooper make for me, because when I'm on a prednisone taper, and when I'm also really hungry, and I've never been formally diagnosed with this, but I'm self-diagnosed because I'm pretty sure I have it. I become extremely dyslexic. I cannot read. I jumble up letters when I'm writing or when I'm reading. And I'll be sitting there looking at something like, wow, new music by Kane. Who's that? And it's, just Kanye. That's an example of my dyslexia. So anyway, Cooper read the prep instructions because I knew I could not responsibly do that on my own. Once I finished the prep bottle, I'm sitting there yet again. 2 hours. Nothing had happened. And I thought to myself, oh no. I took Zofran today and I took pain meds today because prednisone taper. What if that is making me constipated and this prep isn't going to work? So I texted one of my friends who's a PA. Her name's Ellen. And I said, baby girl, do I need to up the ante here or am I going to be okay? She had me send her a picture of what I used. I think it was called Prenuvo, but I feel like it's not. Texted her a picture of it and she said, honey, you're going to be just fine. It's just coming. And she was right. She was most certainly right. It came with a vengeance. It was terrible. And yes, I did shit my pants yet again in my bed. But thankfully my mom wasn't there this time. So only Cooper could hold it over me. And now all of y'all can too. Why am I sharing this? I don't know. But the disaster of the colonoscopy didn't just stop there. The next morning, I woke up with an ass-cracking headache. Oh my God, it hurt so bad. I mean, I think it probably should have been categorized as a migraine, not a headache. And I was extremely nauseous. But Cooper got me in the car and we headed to the surgical center. Well, the surgical center sent me a text with the address. We obviously clicked on that address and went to the location. It took us to the middle of nowhere in North Austin by the dam, by the lake, which is about 45 minutes away from our house. And unfortunately, 20 minutes away from the actual surgical center. I called them, said, hey, we're now going to be 30 minutes late. And they said, did you click the address that we sent in the text? And I said, yes, of course I did. And they told me that address just takes you to the wrong spot. Mind-blowing. If they knew that, why are they not calling their patients to let them know, do not click on that address? Anyway, they were nice enough to still see us, so I will forgive them. We showed up. I'm laying in my pre-op bed with the worst migraine. The nurses are so nice. They bring me IV Zofran, they start fluids, they put a cold towel over my head. And then before we know it, I'm getting rolled back to the operating room, getting all hooked up. They put a bite guard in your mouth, which I know some people have that kink for that, and I just could never. It made me feel like I was choking. And then I went straight to night-night, and when I woke up, my migraine was gone. So it was great. And then when I woke up, St. Coop was right next to me, and what did I do? I hit on him the entire time I was waking up from anesthesia, and Cooper had to keep telling me to be quiet because I was being too loud and a little promiscuous with what I was saying to him. I was not doing anything promiscuous, just FYI. Cooper knew I needed to get food in my system in order to process the anesthesia just a little bit faster because I think I was driving him up a wall. And all I wanted was McDonald's French fries, and bless his soul, he let me have those, and I have not had McDonald's French fries since we did IVF in 2020, so it's been a hot minute, and I will say, no regrets. It was delicious, it was worth it, and 10 for 10, I would do it again. And because I had an empty tank, I did not immediately have diarrhea from the McDonald's French fries, so that is the exact perfect time to have McDonald's French fries. Now, that my favorite thing about a colonoscopy is that they give you your results immediately. There was no signs of inflammation in my gut, no polyps. They still took biopsies, which is because I'm in a clinical study and we needed to get it sent out to the lab for any kind of testing, for other things. Have not gotten those results back. Hopefully I get them this week. And now we're just waiting to do the next test, which should be over the next several weeks. I'll be getting a scan of my small intestine, a capsule endoscopy, 3 MR angiograms of my vasculitis areas, aka my right leg, my pelvis and my abdomen, and my right arm. So now we're just waiting for results, and the wildest part of all of this, including my next round of testing that I'll be doing, is that I am fully aware that we might learn nothing new. Nothing could come out of all of this, and I might have just put myself and my loved ones through hell. But this isn't for anyone else besides me, candidly, and I know that might sound or come across kind of selfish, but this is for my peace of mind, this is for getting on better medication for me potentially, and this is for really knowing once and for all what has been going on in my body for 25 years, and finding out where my vasculitis has really attacked, unmasked for the very first time ever. So although I can't really evaluate if I think that this has been worth it yet or not, I'm really hopeful that it is. And I know we've talked about that before, being hopeful to have test results give you something that others would view as negative, like a bad answer, like that something is wrong with you, that there is something going on. But when you are chronically ill and you've been living in this question mark gray zone for so long, this is just something you yearn for. You want answers, you want clarity, you want to know that the medications you're taking are the right ones. You want to have a label so that you can properly communicate your disease with not just your doctors, but your loved ones, your coworkers, your friends, strangers. It allows you to have community. A label allows you to sit in society, find your people, and also describe to others how you're living, what you're living with, and hopefully get the compassion and support that you so deserve. I found it's really, really hard for most people to give compassion and empathy to somebody that is suffering when they don't know what's going on. That's when it's really easy, I think, for people to go, she's faking it, she's overreacting, this is all nothing, this is in her head, it's anxiety. A label protects you from all of that. So this is me chasing that. And I'm really grateful for you guys being along for the ride, because this has been a shitty time, pun intended. And I know I have a wee bit more of it getting worse before it's going to get better. And, as life tends to happen, I'm just experiencing it all at once with my busiest month of the year. So here's to flaring myself up, because if the tapering of the prednisone doesn't do it and the EMDR doesn't do it, the amount of shit I'm about to push through will inevitably probably make my body flare up. And I'm not even going to knock on wood, because I think that that's what we actually want. That's the intention of all of this. So bring it on, baby. Ooh, don't like those as final last words. I hope I don't live to regret this. And to distract myself from that thought, let's talk my one brain cell show. I have been loving Is It Cake on Netflix. It's hosted by Mikey, can't remember his last name. He used to be on SNL, actually might still be on SNL. He's hilarious, kind of like his childlike humor can come out and play, which is really fun. The people that are on the show are these very talented cake designers. Some of them do it professionally, some of them do it as a hobby, but what they do is they make very realistic looking cakes. And I'm not just talking like, oh, they made a bowling ball cake. I'm talking like they made a crow that looks like 3 other crow statues, and you cannot differentiate which one is which. I said crow because this one is Halloween themed, which makes it all the more fun. We love a spooky little season, lighthearted show. All of the episodes are out now, so you can binge it in all one sitting. And if you just need that little warm hug that GBB gives you, but GBB only comes out once a week, here's how you can fill your time in the meantime. And on that note, it's time for this girl to go get some food, because she's hungry and we gotta feed the beast. So make sure you RSVP for our virtual vision board night. Make sure you rate this podcast, send it to a friend, and if you are being forced to flare up too, know I am with you in solidarity. Feel free to reach out with any questions. I love you guys. Catch you next Monday. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me for another week of Calling in Sick. As a reminder, I would love for y'all to like, follow, subscribe, save, share with a friend, do all of the things. It truly helps grow this community, and it helps these episodes reach the people that need them the most, whether that's for an educational piece, to have a little laugh, or to not feel so alone. As a reminder, Calling in Sick sits on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, and anywhere else where you can find your listens. From the bottom of my heart, I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for calling in sick with me every Monday. It's been an honor and a pleasure so far, and I can't wait to continue building this community with y'all. Love you.